So, what are some of the benefits of role-based access control? Obviously, the first thing is segregation of duties. And what that really means is that you can do segregation of duties in two different ways, right? You can say that if someone has access to managing a list of vendors in a financial application, they may not be able to issue payments, right? Because obviously you can create your own vendors, your friend's company, and then make payments to that company, right? So that's something you want to avoid. Segregation of duties clearly allows you to separate and implement a process where you are not allowing certain functions or features to be granted simultaneously to an individual. If you implement role-based access control, what happens is you put only those entitlements and access rights into a job role which are not in conflict with each other. So anytime you onboard someone, you put them into a new role, they're by the nature of roles guaranteed not to have conflicting rights. Okay. The next item is prevention of accumulated access upon transfers. So how many of you deal with a situation where you hire people, they transfer from one job that they were hired into to the next job, and then they keep all the entitlements they had in their first job and only add new ones? So how many of you? Okay, number of people. And the ones that didn't raise their hand, I'll forgive you for that. Okay. So basically, that's a very common problem. People accumulate entitlements, and this is basically how the Societe Generale problem happened. Someone clearly migrated through positions and had access to a lot more than they should have had access to. Really, you can look at easier provisioning and deprovisioning because of the integration and automation of enterprise job roles with user account provisioning. You can clearly grant, modify, and remove entitlements through automated methods with a provisioning system. And obviously, as you do all this, you're going to have fewer audit findings. You're going to spend much less time, right, on correcting these audit findings. So I want to kind of ask this question because it's something that is very interesting for us. Has any one of you done any kind of studies into the cost of an audit finding? Like how much it costs? When an auditor says that you have no idea how you're granting access here, have you looked at how much it costs the company to rectify it and remediate that? Okay. So one of the a lot of the conversations that I've had with people in IT security indicate that the cost of an audit finding is somewhere between $10,000 to $15,000, and you can probably translate that into euros, right, directly. So that's minimum. If you have a big one, it's obviously it can go to hundreds of thousands of euros. So obviously the investment that you make into implementing provisioning is recuperated at that point very quickly. Okay, let's see. What are some of the challenges? Role-based access control can be very difficult to sell internally. How many of you had to sit through meetings with people? Some people who might have implemented this may be able to attest to this, that really you had problems selling all this to stakeholders. They were asking questions, why do we need this? We're happy with doing the things the way they were. Conversation. So typically it's a fairly difficult kind of sell story. You have to do a lot of legwork, a lot of implementation first, and then you can be successful. It requires persistence, right? So it's not a 3-month project. It's not a 6-month project. It's really an iteration, an iterative process, right? You're going to have to prove out your points to stakeholders, and I'm actually going to talk about that quite a bit moving forward. How you can implement the process where you can really prove out the value of roles. It's a behavior change, right? People will not like you when you kind of come forward with plans and say you're going to lose access because you need to assume a certain job role in the enterprise, right? So it's very, it's a lot of behavior changes. It's a lot of processes that you have to change in the company before you can get success here. Obviously, change management is required, and a lot of people forget all the aspects that you have to, all the processes, all the trainings you have to put in place for something of like this magnitude to be successful. Very important, and a lot of people forget about it. HR, that's an evergreen problem, right? So enterprise job roles will not fly without you involving human resources. Why? Because HR really has the key to the kingdom. They really understand who works in what position, and the HR data is the key to making a lot of these job role decisions. So how many of you have had problems or difficulty convincing human resources to play with you for job roles? Okay, 2 number, yeah. The best way to work there is basically if you can offer something to human resources that they can use out of identity and access management instead of you just asking for data from them. That's probably the best way. So I worked with a company where they actually built a worker repository of just people. They were not even using the entire system to manage entitlements at all, to IT systems. They just built a semi-HR system based on tracking entitlements for the whole company in addition to what they had in PeopleSoft. Okay. The last item is a very interesting one. It's like marriage, right? Or human relationships, right? Or money. If you have a lot of money, that doesn't guarantee you happiness, right? But if you don't have a lot of money, it almost guarantees you unhappiness, right? So okay, so you have to understand your homework, you have to understand your processes, and because of them, you have to be able to pick the right product based on your requirements and implement it well. If you don't know what questions you need to ask when you're picking the product, you won't be able to pick the right product. So the more homework you do before you actually go out and choose a product, the better off you are. Some common myths. Role management is impossible at our company. We are not the company that Oracle, Sun, CA, and IBM talks about in all their white papers, and we just can't do this here. Right? Role management is a long project. It doesn't have to be. You can get the results, but obviously, if you have a large company with a lot of users, you will have to work on it for a long time, right? How do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. There are no tangible benefits of role management. That is not true. You can, especially if you have an organization where you have a lot of turnover, like call centers or warehouses or any kind of manufacturing floors, where you add and basically add and remove a lot of people. So a lot of people join, a lot of people leave. In those instances, you're going to see a lot of benefits if you automate the process.